The transport shuttle's engines went quiet as Lieutenant Maya Chen stepped onto the cold metal floor of Frontier Station Alpha. The air tasted different here, metallic and sharp. She pulled her jacket tighter around her shoulders and looked around at what would be her new home for the next 2 years. The first thing that hit her was how alone she felt. The station buzzed with activity, but none of it was human. Tall, thin creatures with too many joints moved around like walking sticks. Their skin looked like tree bark, and their eyes were huge and black. These were the Manthari. Maya had studied them in training, but seeing them in person made her stomach flip. Near the loading dock, she spotted the other main species working here, the Veltons. They looked like someone had carved people out of clear crystal. Light bounced off their bodies, in weird ways, making them seem like they were glowing from inside. When they talked, their voices sounded like wind chimes in a storm. Maya grabbed her 2 small bags and waited. She felt every alien eye in the place looking at her. Their stares weren't friendly. Some seemed curious, like she was a zoo animal. Others looked annoyed, like she was a problem they didn't want to deal with. A shadow fell over her, and Maya looked up way up. The creature standing in front of her had to be at least 8 feet tall. Its body was thin but strong, covered in that bark-like skin she'd seen on the others. But this one wore some kind of uniform with gold markings. 4 arms hung at its sides, each ending in hands with too many fingers. Lieutenant Chen, the creature said in perfect English, though its voice clicked and buzzed like insects talking. I am Station Commander Thakmer. You are late. Maya checked her watch. She was actually 5 minutes early, but she didn't argue. Sorry, Commander. Ready to start whenever you are. Thakmer made a sound that might have been laughing, but not in a nice way. We will see if you are truly ready. Follow me. Do not touch anything. Do not look directly at anything for too long. And do not ask questions until we reach your quarters. They started walking through the station's main corridor. Maya had thought she was prepared for this place, but nothing could have made her ready for what she saw. Both sides of the hallway were lined with thick glass walls, and behind each one was something that made her skin crawl in the first cell. Something that looked like a cross between a spider and a tornado spun around and around. Its movements were so fast, they made her dizzy just watching. The next cell held what appeared to be living liquid, black and thick, moving around the walls like it was looking for a way out. Each of these creatures, Thakmer explained as they walked, represents a different type of threat to galactic peace. Some are poisonous. Others are extremely intelligent and manipulative. A few can change their shape to look like other species. Maya nodded, trying to seem professional while her heart hammered against her ribs. Some of the creatures pressed themselves against the glass when she passed, like they could smell her fear. Others ignored her completely, which somehow felt even worse. They passed dozens of cells. Maya saw things with too many teeth, things with no faces at all, and things that seemed to be made of pure energy crackling behind specially designed barriers. The deeper they went into the station, the thicker the glass got, and the more warning signs appeared. Finally, they stopped at a section where the hallway opened up into a larger area. Here the cells were huge, more like small buildings than cages. Red lights flashed everywhere, and warning signs covered every surface in symbols Maya didn't recognize, but she could guess what they meant. This is Cell Block 9, Thakmer said, his voice dropping lower. This area is forbidden to anyone below Level 7 security clearance. That means you cannot come here, ever. Maya looked at the massive containment unit in front of them. The glass was so thick it was almost black, and she could barely make out something moving inside. Whatever it was big, really big. What's in there? She asked, even though she wasn't supposed to ask questions. Thakmer S-for-eyes all. Focused on her at once, the Ravenclaw, creature that has killed 4 of our most experienced handlers. It breaks out of every containment system we build. It learns from every attempt to control it. And it seems to enjoy hunting intelligent life. Maya felt cold all over. How big is it? About the size of your human shuttlecraft. But it moves like your Earth cat, silent and deadly. It can tear through steel with its claws and has intelligence. Levels we cannot measure. They've tried everything. Tranquilizers, energy fields, even telepathic barriers. Nothing works for more than a few days. The thing in the cell moved again, and Maya thought she saw something press against the inner wall of its prison. Something that might have been watching them. "Why keep it here, then?" she asked. Thokmer made that not-quite-laughing sound again. "'Cause Lieutenant Chen, if we cannot contain it, we certainly cannot kill it. We cannot risk it escaping into populated space. So here it stays, and here it will remain until we find a solution." He turned and started walking away. "Come. Your quarters are in section. See? You start work tomorrow at 0600. Remember what I told you about this area?" Maya took one last look at the massive cell. For just a moment, she could have sworn she saw two glowing eyes looking back at her. Through all that thick glass? Then Thekmer called her name sharply, and she hurried to catch up. Maya had been working at Frontier Station Alpha for 3 nights now, and she was starting to get used to the weird schedule. Night shifts meant she walked around the empty corridors, checking on experiments while most of the alien crew slept. Well, she wasn't sure if the Manthuri actually slept, but they definitely stayed in their quarters during these hours. Tonight felt different, though. Maya couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching her as she made her rounds. Every time she turned a corner, she expected to see glowing eyes in the shadows, but the hallway stayed empty, lit only by the soft blue emergency lights that never turned off. Her route took her through the main research. Levels first past the chemistry labs where they studied alien plant samples, through the medical wing, where they analyzed blood and tissue from 100 different species. And finally, toward the outer sections where the more dangerous experiments were kept. She wasn't supposed to go near. Cell Block 9. Commander Thokmer had made that crystal clear on her first day, but her patrol route went right past the entrance, and Maya found herself slowing down each time she walked by. Tonight, she stopped completely. The corridor leading to the forbidden sector was darker than the rest of the station. Warning lights blinked slowly along the walls, casting everything in a bloody glow. Maya looked around to make sure she was alone, then took a few steps toward the massive containment area. She could hear something from inside the Ravenclaw's cell, sound like heavy breathing mixed with what might have been humming. It was strange. The reports she'd read described a vicious killer that attacked anything that moved. It sounded almost peaceful. Maya crept closer to the thick viewing window. The glass was so dense she could barely see through it, but there was definitely something moving inside. She pressed her face against the cool surface and tried to make out what was happening in there. What she saw made her heart skip a beat. Ravenclaw wasn't pacing around like a caged animal or throwing itself against the walls trying to escape. Instead, it was sitting in the center of its cell, perfectly still. Its head was tilted slightly to one side, and those glowing eyes were focused directly on her. Maya jerked back from the window. How long had it been watching her? Could it see her through the thick glass even when she couldn't see it clearly? She was about to leave when the creature did something that stopped her cold. It stood up slowly and walked toward the barrier. Not rushing or attacking, just walking calmly like it wanted to get a better look at her. Up close, Maya could see more details. The Ravenclaw was huge, easily the size of a small spacecraft, like Commander Thokmer had said. Its body was covered in what looked like black metal scales that shifted and moved as it breathed. 6 powerful legs carried its weight with perfect grace, and its long tail swayed gently behind it. But it was the eyes that got to her. They weren't the cold dead eyes of a mindless predator. They were curious, intelligent, almost friendly. The creature lowered itself down until it was sitting again, just a few feet away from the barrier. Then it did something that made Maya's mouth fall open. It tilted its head and made a soft chirping sound, the same sound she'd been hearing. From the corridor, without thinking, Maya stepped closer to the window. The Ravenclaw's eyes followed her movement, but it didn't seem aggressive. If anything, it looked interested in what she was doing. Maya raised her hand and placed it flat against the glass. The surface was warm from the energy field running through it. She felt foolish. What was she doing? This thing had killed 4 people. But then the Ravenclaw did something incredible. Lifted one of its front legs and placed what looked like a paw against the barrier right where Maya's hand was pressed on the other side. The creature's paw was actually more like a hand, with long fingers that ended in sharp claws. But it held it gently against the glass, not trying to break through. They stayed like that for almost a minute, staring at this supposedly vicious killer and the Ravenclaw looking back at her with those bright, intelligent eyes. It was the strangest moment of her life. "What do you think you are doing?" Maya spun around so fast she nearly fell over. Dr. Kasara, the station's head researcher, stood behind her with all the lights on her crystal body flashing angry red colors. The Velton's voice sounded like breaking glass when she was upset. "I was just ... I heard something, and ... Maya stammered. "You heard something. So you decided to violate direct orders and approach the most dangerous creature on this station." Dr. Kasara moved closer, and Maya could see data streaming across the transparent panels of the alien's face. This is highly irregular behavior. Maya expected to be thrown in the station's jail or shipped back to Earth immediately. But Dr. Kessera wasn't looking at her anymore. The Velton scientist was staring at the readings flowing across her body with what might have been shock. "This cannot be correct," Dr. Kessera muttered. She tapped several spots on her arm and the data changed. The stress hormone levels are impossible. Brainwave patterns show curiosity rather than aggression. Heart rate is actually lower than baseline readings. "What does that mean?" Maya asked. Dr. Kasara looked from Maya to the Ravenclaw, which was still sitting calmly by the barrier. "It means that, for the first time since we captured this creature, it is not trying to figure out how to kill everything around it. Instead, it appears to be ... interested in you." Maya looked back at the Ravenclaw. It was still watching her, making those soft, chirping sounds. "Maybe it's just lonely," she said quietly. "Lonely." Dr. Kasara's lights flickered in what might have been surprise. These creatures are apex predators. They do not get lonely. But as they watched, the Ravenclaw moved closer to the barrier again and made a sound Maya hadn't heard before, something almost like a cat's purr. But deeper and more musical, maybe, Maya thought. They didn't know as much about these creatures as they believed. Maya was halfway through her patrol when the lights went out, not just dimmed, completely black. For a terrifying second, she stood frozen in the corridor, unable to see her own hands in front of her face. Then the emergency lighting kicked in, bathing everything in that familiar red glow. But this wasn't the soft red of the warning lights she was used to. These were harsh, bright flashes that hurt her eyes and made scary shadows jump around the walls. And with the lights came a sound that made her blood run cold. Alarms, lots of them, all screaming at once. Maya's training kicked in. Her back against the wall and activated her communication device. "This is Lieutenant Chen. What's happening?" Static crackled through the speaker before Commander Thacmer's voice came through, sounding more stressed than she'd ever heard him. "Meteor strike on the power station. Multiple system failures. All personnel report to emergency stations immediately." A meteor strike. Maya felt sick. Out here on the edge of known space, they were sitting ducks for space debris. She'd always known it was possible. But somehow she'd never really believed it would happen. The floor shook under her feet, and somewhere in the distance she could hear the groaning of metal under stress. More alarms joined the chorus. And now she could hear something else, voices shouting in languages she didn't understand. And the sound of running feet echoing through the corridors. Maya started jogging toward the main hub where she was supposed to report during emergencies. But as she passed the entrance to Cell Block 9, she heard something that made her stop dead in her tracks. A roar, deep and powerful and angry. It echoed through the station like thunder, drowning out even the alarms for a moment. Her blood turned to ice. The Ravenclaw Maya grabbed her communicator again. "Commander, what's the status on the containment systems?" There was a long pause before Thacmer answered, and when he did, his voice was tight with fear. "Containment has been compromised in Sectors 7 through 12. Security teams are being deployed with full lethal authorization. Sectors 7 through 12. That included Cell Block 9. Without thinking, Maya turned and ran toward the forbidden sector. She knew it was crazy. She should be running away from the most dangerous creature on the station, not toward it. But something deep in her gut told her this was wrong. All wrong. The corridor leading to the containment area was chaos, broken. Glass crunched under her boots, and sparks flew from damaged electrical panels. The thick barriers that had held back the Ravenclaw were cracked and flickering. Emergency foam sprayed from the ceiling, making everything slippery and hard to see. And there, standing in the middle of the destruction, was the creature she'd been visiting for the past week. Up close and outside its cell, the Ravenclaw was even more impressive than Maya had imagined. It stood at least 10 feet tall, its powerful body rippling with muscle under those dark scales. 6 legs planted firmly on the ground gave it perfect balance, and its long tail lashed back and forth as it looked around at the chaos. But it wasn't attacking anything. It wasn't roaring or trying to hurt anyone. It just stood there, looking confused and maybe even scared. Maya took a deep breath and stepped into the open. "Hey there, Hunter," she called softly, using the name she'd given it in her head during their quiet moments by the barrier. The Ravenclaw's head snapped toward her voice. Those glowing eyes focused on her face, and Maya saw recognition there. The creature's tail stopped lashing, and it took a careful step in her direction. "Yeah, it's me," Maya said, trying to keep her voice calm, even though her heart was hammering. "You remember me, don't you?" Hunter, she couldn't think of it as the Ravenclaw anymore, made that soft chirping sound she'd grown to love. It lowered its massive head and took another step toward her, moving slowly like it didn't want to scare her. Maya held out her hand, the same way she had through the glass barrier. "It's okay, boy. Everything's going to be okay." But everything was definitely not okay. Heavy footsteps echoed from behind her, and Maya turned to see a squad of security officers in full combat gear rushing into the area. Their weapons were raised, and she could see the charge indicators glowing bright red. "Step away from the creature, Lieutenant," the squad leader shouted. Maya recognized the voice. It was Captain Rexstar, one of the Manthari officers. "Move to a safe distance immediately." Maya looked at the weapons pointed in their direction, then back at Hunter. The creature had moved closer, and now it was standing right behind her. She could feel the heat from its body and hear the steady rhythm of its breathing. "Don't shoot," Maya called back. "It's not attacking anyone. It's a Class A predator," Rexstar shouted. "It will kill you the moment you let your guard down. Step on. Away now, or we will fire through you if necessary." Maya felt Hunter shift behind her, and when she glanced back, she saw something amazing. The creature had lowered itself down, making its body smaller and less threatening. Its claws were retracted, and it was making those soft purring sounds she'd heard through the barrier. It was trying not to scare the security team. "Look at it," Maya said, not moving from her spot between Hunter and the weapons. "Really look at it. When has it ever acted like this before?" More security officers arrived, surrounding them in a semicircle. Maya could see the fear in their alien faces, but she could also see their confusion. This wasn't how the report said the Ravenclaw behaved. Captain Rexstar spoke into his communicator. Maya heard him broadcasting to the entire station, maybe even to the consortium headquarters back on the core worlds. "We have the escaped predator cornered in cell block 9. Human crew member is refusing to evacuate, requesting immediate authorization for lethal force." Maya reached back slowly and placed her hand on Hunter's flank. The creature's skin was warm and smooth, and she could feel the steady beat of its heart under her palm. It leaned into her touch, slightly the way a giant cat might. "My name is Lieutenant Maya Chen," she said loudly, making sure her words would be picked up by Rexstar's communicator. "I'm standing here with a creature that everyone says is a killer. To kill anyone. It's scared and confused, and it just wants someone to understand it." Hunter made a low, rumbling sound, not a growl, but something that sounded almost like it was trying to talk. "You're all watching this, aren't you?" I continued, looking directly at Rexstar's communicator. "Everyone back at headquarters, all the scientists and politicians who make decisions about these creatures, well, here's your proof that maybe we don't know everything we think we know." The security officers shifted nervously, their weapons still trained on both of them. Maya knew that one wrong move from her, or from Hunter, would end this in a way nobody wanted, but Hunter seemed to understand the danger too. The creature stayed perfectly still, letting Maya's hand rest on its side while dozens of weapons pointed at them both. They waited, in that tense moment, for someone far away to decide whether they would live or die. The standoff lasted for what felt like hours, but Maya knew it was probably only minutes. Hunter remained perfectly still beside her, his massive body warm against her back. She could feel him breathing, slow and steady, like he was trying to stay calm for her sake. Then something happened that changed everything. Another alarm started wailing. It's one different from the others. It was higher pitched and came in short bursts that made Maya's teeth ache. Through her communicator, she heard panicked voices reporting new problems all over the station. Containment breach in Section 5, someone shouted in broken English. The acid spitters are loose. Section 7, reporting multiple escapes, came another voice. We need backup immediately. Captain Rexstar cursed in his own language, which sounded like angry clicking. Half his security team received orders through their earpieces and had to leave, running off to deal with the other emergencies. That left only 4 officers still pointing weapons at Maya and Hunter. But Hunter wasn't interested in the reduced security anymore. The creature's head lifted, and Maya could see his nostrils flaring as he sniffed the air. His glowing eyes focused on something down the corridor, and he made a low, rumbling sound that Maya had never heard before. "What is it, boy?" she whispered. Hunter took a step forward, placing himself more firmly between Maya and whatever he was sensing. His body language had changed completely. Before, he'd been trying to look small and non-threatening. Now he looked like what he really was, an apex predator ready to defend his territory. That's when Maya smelled it too. Something sharp and chemical that burned her nose and made her eyes water. One of the creatures that had escaped was heading their way, and it didn't smell friendly. "Everyone needs to back up," Maya called to the security officers. "Something dangerous is coming this way." Rexstar started to argue, but then he caught the scent too. His 4 eyes went wide, and he barked orders to his remaining team. They spread out, trying to cover both Hunter and whatever was approaching from the other direction. The thing that came around the corner made Maya's blood freeze. It looked like a cross between a giant centipede and a melted plastic bag. Body was translucent and constantly shifting, showing the acid that sloshed around inside it like poison in a bottle. When it moved, it left smoking trails on the metal floor. This was one of the acid spitters, creatures so dangerous they were kept in special sealed containers, because their spit could eat through almost anything. And now it was free, angry, and heading straight for them. Hunter moved without hesitation. He stepped forward and let out a roar that shook the entire corridor. But this wasn't the confused, scared sound Maya had heard earlier. This was the voice of a predator, claiming his territory and protecting his pack. The acid spitter stopped immediately. Maya watched in amazement as the deadly creature actually backed away from Hunter's challenge. It hissed and bubbled, but it didn't attack. Instead, it slowly turned around and slithered back the way it had come. "How did he do that?" Rexstar whispered, his weapons finally lowering slightly. Before Maya could answer, more alarms started going off. This time they were coming from everywhere. The chemistry labs, the medical wing, even the staff quarters. The meteor strike had damaged more than just cell block 9. It sounded like half the station's security systems were failing. Hunter looked back at Maya, and she saw something in his eyes that made her heart skip. He wanted to help. This massive creature that everyone feared was offering to help fix the chaos spreading through the station. "Okay, Hunter," Maya said softly. "Show me what to do." What happened next was like watching a master at work. Hunter moved through the station with purpose, and Maya followed close behind. Wherever they went, the escaped creatures responded to Hunter's presence in ways that defied everything the scientists thought they knew. In the chemistry lab, they found 3 small bat-like creatures that had broken out of their cages and were tearing apart expensive equipment. The moment Hunter appeared in the doorway, they stopped destroying things and huddled together in the corner. making submissive chirping sounds in the medical wing. A shapeshifter that could mimic any form had been terrorizing the Velton doctors by taking on their appearance. But when Hunter walked into the room, the shapeshifter immediately returned to its natural form and lay down flat on the ground. "This is impossible," Dr. Cassara said as she watched from the doorway. Her crystal body was flashing through dozens of colors as she processed what she was seeing. These creatures have never shown submissive behavior. Never. Maya was starting to understand something incredible. "They're not submitting to him," she said. "They recognize him as the Alpha. He's not threatening them. He's leading them." Hunter seemed to understand that Maya was figuring it out. He made that soft chirping sound and gently nudged her toward another corridor where more alarms were sounding. They found Captain Basuzal and his remaining security team cornered by something that looked like a living shadow. It moved along the walls and ceiling just out of reach of their weapons, making sounds like breaking glass. Every time they tried to shoot it, it would slip away and attack from a different angle. Maya had never seen Rexstar look scared before, but the tough Manthari officer was clearly out of his depth. His team was backed into a corner with nowhere to run. Hunter stepped into the corridor and made a series of sounds Maya had never heard, clicks and chirps and low rumbles that sounded almost like language. The shadow creature stopped moving. Immediately, it flowed down from the ceiling and took on a more solid shape, revealing itself to be some kind of energy being with glowing eyes. The shadow creature and Hunter looked at each other for a long moment. Maya held her breath, not sure what was going to happen, and the shadow being made a sound that might have been acknowledgement and glided away down the corridor, leaving the security team unharmed. "How?" Star asked, staring at Hunter with a mixture of fear and respect. Dr. Cassara appeared beside them. Readings streaming across her crystal face, faster than Maya had ever seen. "The behavioral patterns are unprecedented," she said in an excited voice. "Lieutenant Chen, how long have you been interacting with the Ravenclaw?" "About a week," Maya said, "just through the glass barrier." "And what was your approach? How did you communicate with it?" Maya thought back to those quiet moments by the containment field. "I just ... treated him like he was intelligent, like he could understand me. I wasn't trying to control him or study him, just wanted to know what he was thinking." Colors shifted to deep blue, the Velton equivalent of sudden understanding. "Alpha behavior," she whispered. "You displayed pack leader characteristics. Confidence without aggression. Protection without dominance. You triggered his bonding instincts." Hunter had moved closer to Maya during this conversation, and now his massive head was level with hers. When she reached up to touch his face, he leaned into her hand the way a dog might. "You're saying they're social creatures?" Maya asked. "All the reports say they're solitary predators. All previous contact has been hostile," Dr. Cassara admitted. "We captured them, caged them, studied them like specimens. Of course they behaved aggressively, never gave them a chance to show their true nature. Around them, the station's alarms were finally starting to quiet down. One by one, the escaped creatures were returning to their containment areas or allowing themselves to be peacefully recaptured. And in every case, it happened after Hunter had somehow communicated with them." Maya looked around at the alien faces surrounding her Rexstar and his security team, Dr. Cassara and her research staff, even Commander Thakmer, who had arrived to assess the damage. They were all looking at Hunter with new eyes. For the first time since arriving at Frontier Station Alpha, Maya felt like she belonged here. And more than that, she felt like she had found something amazing, something that was going to change how the galaxy thought about the creatures they called monsters. Hunter made that soft purring sound and nuzzled against her shoulder. Whatever happened next, Maya knew they would face it together. The emergency meeting happened faster than Maya expected. Just 2 days after the containment breach, she found herself sitting in the station's main conference room, facing a wall of screens showing some of the most important beings in the galaxy. The Galactic Research Consortium's Emergency Council had assembled, and they did not look happy. Maya tried not to fidget in her chair as alien faces stared at her from a dozen different worlds. She recognized some of the species from her training, the elegant Altarians with their silver skin, the hulking Borthak representatives who looked like walking boulders, Several others she'd only seen in textbooks. Hunter sat beside her chair, as calm as always. The massive creature had refused to leave her side since the incident, and honestly, Maya was grateful for his presence. Having your best friend nearby made even the scariest meetings a little easier to handle. "Lieutenant Chen," came a voice that sounded like grinding stone. This was Counselor Vexahan, a Borthok who served as the consortium's security chief. "You stand accused of violating direct orders, endangering station personnel, and forming an unauthorized bond with a class, a predator. How do you answer these charges?" Maya took a deep breath. She'd known this was coming, but it still felt surreal. 3 weeks ago, she'd been a nobody, just another human trying to prove herself in a galaxy full of aliens, who thought her species was too young and too reckless. Now she was facing the possibility of execution for doing what felt like the right thing. "I answered that everything I did was necessary to save lives," Maya said, surprised by how steady her voice sounded. "If I hadn't approached Hunter, the Ravenclaw, during the crisis, a lot more people would have been hurt or killed." "Hunter," the question came from Counselor Mirthla, an Altarian whose voice rang like crystal bells. "You gave the creature a name?" "Of course I did," Maya replied. "He's intelligent, he has feelings, deserves a name just like anyone else." Several council members started talking at once, their voices creating a mixture of clicks, hums, and musical tones that hurt Maya's ears. She caught fragments of their arguments, some calling for her immediate imprisonment, others demanding she be sent back to Earth in disgrace. But then, Dr. Kasara's voice cut through the noise. The Velton scientist had been quiet until now. But when she spoke, everyone listened. "Counselors," Dr. Kasara said, her crystal body pulsing with soft blue light, "before we make any decisions about Lieutenant Chen's fate, perhaps we should examine what actually happened during the crisis." The screens around the room changed, showing security footage from the containment breach. Maya watched herself standing between Hunter and the security team, then saw the incredible scenes that followed. Hunter calming the escaped creatures, guiding Maya through the chaos, and ultimately helping to save the station. "In 23 years of Ravenclaw research," Dr. Kasara continued, "we have never observed this type of behavior. The creature displayed pack leadership, protective instincts, and what can only be described as compassion. These are not the actions of a mindless predator." Counselor Vexahan's rocky face showed something that might have been skepticism. "Are you suggesting that our entire understanding of these creatures has been wrong?" "I'm suggesting that our approach has been wrong," Dr. Kasara said firmly. "We have always treated unknown species as threats to be contained rather than intelligences, to be understood. Lieutenant Chen's success proves there is another way." Maya felt Hunter shift beside her. The creature's head was up, alert like he understood they were talking about him. When she reached over to pat his flank, he made that soft purring sound that always made her smile. "The results speak for themselves," Dr. Kasara went on. "Since Lieutenant Chen began working with Hunter, we have had 0 containment incidents, 0 injuries, and unprecedented cooperation from previously hostile specimens. Her methods have revolutionized our understanding of interspecies communication." The council fell silent for a moment. Maya could see them processing this information, weighing the political implications against the undeniable evidence of success. Finally, Counselor Mirthla spoke. "What exactly are you proposing, Dr. Kasara?" "I propose that instead of punishing Lieutenant Chen, we learn from her. Establish a new division, focused on interspecies bonding. Train other humans in these techniques. And most importantly, reclassify the Ravenclaw species from hostile to potentially cooperative." Maya's heart nearly stopped. She'd been expecting prison time or exile, not promotion ideas. "Absolutely not," Counselor Vexahan rumbled. "The security risks are too great." "One success does not justify, actually, sir," interrupted Commander Thackamore's voice from behind Maya. She turned to see the tall Mantheri entering the conference room. "We've been running preliminary tests with 3 other human crew members and different specimen types. The results are remarkable." Maya hadn't known about any other tests. She looked at Thekmer in surprise. "Over the past 48 hours?" The commander continued. We've successfully established peaceful contact with a Void Stalker, 2 Crystal Singers, and something we've been calling a phase beast. All of these creatures were previously considered uncontainable. The council erupted in discussion again, but this time the tone was different. Maya heard words like revolutionary and paradigm shift. Mixed in with the usual concerns about safety and protocol, when the vote finally came, it wasn't even close. 7 council members voted to establish the new Interspecies Relations Division with Maya as its director, only to vote it against the proposal. 6 months later, Maya stood on the bridge of the research vessel, New Horizons, watching stars stretch into lines as they entered hyperspace. It still felt like a dream sometimes. She'd gone from a nobody lieutenant to the director of the galaxy's newest and most important. Research Division. Hunter lay curled up in the specially designed area they'd built for him on the bridge. He'd grown even bigger in the past few months, but he was still the same gentle giant who'd trusted her enough to change everything. Director Chen called Lieutenant Torres from the navigation station. Torres was one of the new human recruits, and he'd already formed an incredible bond with a creature called a Stormwing. We're approaching the Kepler Nebula. Eta 2 first contact site is 6 hours. Maya nodded. Their mission was ambitious. Make peaceful contact with 3 species that had been written off as too dangerous for diplomacy. Have been to send warships and demand surrender.
Yes.
Maya's approach was to send friends and offer understanding. She looked around the bridge at her mixed crew. Humans worked alongside Mantharian Veltans, with their bonded creatures resting nearby. It was a sight that would have been impossible just a year ago. You know what, Hunter? Maya said quietly, scratching behind the creature's ear-like appendages. I think we're going to change the galaxy. Hunter opened one glowing eye and made that happy purring sound. Then he closed his eye again and went back to sleep, completely trusting that Maya would keep them all safe. As the New Horizons flew deeper into unexplored space, Maya reflected on everything that had led them here. It had started with a simple idea. Maybe the monsters weren't really monsters at all. Maybe they just needed someone willing to see past the fear and find the intelligence underneath. The galaxy was full of wonders they'd never imagined, and Maya couldn't wait to meet them all.